Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Take 10 Tips, Tools, and Training for a 5K. My name is Yasmin, a member of your Premise Health Fitness team, and I'm going to be your presenter today. So just a quick little intro on me. I have my bachelor's and master's in exercise science. I'm a certified personal trainer with ACSM, and many years ago, I was a collegiate track and cross-country athlete. So my goal today is, hopefully to share some tidbits that may be helpful to anyone thinking about signing up for a 5K, or to even those who have already completed a 5K before. So quick look at our agenda. We're going to look at some information on clothing, shoes, as well as how to tie our laces. We're going to look at some components you may see in a training program and finish with some additional tips for consideration. So first off, as we go out to train, we want to make sure we feel comfortable in our clothes, right? So for running, we want to look for moisture-wicking fabrics that will transport perspiration away from the skin to keep you dry and chafe-free. Fabrics that dry quickly, such as polyester and nylon, can help you keep you comfortable as you work up your sweat while you're out running. And if you're caught in any passing showers or rain, they're also going to dry very quickly and keep you from getting cold. For our socks, we want to try to avoid 100% cotton because they do hold moisture. So if your feet get wet, either through sweating or rain, if you're like me and love jumping in puddles, they'll stay wet and damp, so leading to problems like chafing and blisters. You also might want to look at socks that are, seamless, and many running socks actually boast anti-blister technology. Also for socks, you might want to consider arch support, any additional padding in the heels and toes, as well as compression. And finally, we want to ensure the shoes we are wearing work well for us. And so as tempting as it is to get your favorite color or a cool design, we want to make sure we choose function over fashion. And I highly recommend and suggest that you visit a store that specializes in running shoes and apparel, as they're going to be able to offer you a gait analysis to help you find the best fit for you. So don't be surprised when you go to that store if they get you to walk or run, because the way we walk and the way we run are completely different. And it's also going to be different than when you're just standing. They're going to have different pressure points versus standing, walking, and running. So let's take a little bit of a deeper look into our shoes and what this specialized store may be typically looking at. So to start, we want to know what pronation means. And pronation happens at your feet and at your hands. So if you were to take your hand out in front of you with your palm facing to the sky and roll your hand over so it faces the ground, that's pronation. And it's exactly the same as your feet. It's simply the rolling in movement of your foot. So the purpose of pronation is shock absorption. And the vast majority of people will land on the outside of their feet when they run and walk. And then the feet rolls inwards, dispersing these impact forces. And running shoes are specifically designed to work with the natural motion and lessen this impact of the landing. So because everyone's feet pronate at different degrees, running shoes are made with varying levels of support, and having the right level of support should improve comfort and lower the chances of overuse injuries. So what I described previously would be classified as a neutral runner. The foot lands on the outside of the heel and then rolls inwards to absorb the shock and support your body weight. And then typically as we push off from the ground, they will have an even distribution from the front of the foot. And if we were to look at the bottom of the shoe of a neutral runner, you would see an S-shaped pattern of wear from the outer heel to the big toe. Okay, so this would be the image on your top right hand of the screen. So a stability shoe will likely be needed for those that are overpronators or supinators. So for overpronators, the foot lands on the outside of the heel, but then rolls excessively inwards, transferring weight to that inner edge inside of the ball of the foot. And then when they push off from the ground, you're going to see a lot of it coming from the big toe and second toe. And wear and tear is mostly found near the big toe on the inside of the heel. And pronators typically have low arches or flat feet and may experience shin splints, plantar fasciitis, bunions, heels, and heel spurs. Supinators typically heel strike the ground on the outside of the heel with an increased angle with little to no rolling inward or pronation, causing a large transmission of shock through the lower leg. The pressure that during the takeoff motion is going to be a lot on their smaller toes and the outside of the foot, creating wear mostly on the outside of the shoe. Supinators typically have high arches and may experience plantar fasciitis, shin splints, and ankle strain. So if you go look at your shoes, maybe you're going to find different wear and tear patterns. If you know you have high or low arches, you may be able to figure out if you're an overpronator or a supinator and maybe what shoes will work best for you. The last section on our shoes is how to tie your laces. And there are varying ways to tie your shoes, and I've highlighted 4 here in this presentation today. So first off, heel locking. So if you've ever looked at your shoes or your running shoes and you see that extra hole at the very, very top, that can actually be used for heel locking if you find that your heel slides out of your shoe very easily. Next, we have one lace tying for those that have high arches, and this is actually how I tie my shoelaces. So if you experience a lot of extra pressure on the top of your foot with the traditional laced shoe as it comes from the store, try not crossing over in the middle section of your shoe to alleviate this pressure. Similarly, if you have a wide forefoot, you want to create more room in the lower portion of your shoe, so avoid having that crossover pattern at the bottom and the start of your shoelaces. And then finally, if you experience any pain in your big toe or you end up with like a black toenail, you might want to try some diagonal lacing as in the 4th image to kind of help prevent that. So again, there's lots of different ways that you can tie your shoelaces. This is just 4 ways. I actually do 2 of these. I do the heel locking and the high arch. Okay, so we have our gear and it's time to train, but we don't know where to begin. And I'm here to tell you that there is no perfect training plan that fits everyone's needs, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't have a plan. So whether you start with a beginner couch to 5K or you've been running regularly and you're starting an intermediate program, we typically want to look for training programs that will be in the realm of 6 to 10 weeks. And we're going to touch base on some of the elements you may see in a training program in the next couple of slides. But also take a look to see if there's any running groups or clubs in your area, or if you have any friends that are interested in going, out for a run or a walk together, because this can really add a greater motivation and accountability in your training. So here are some components that you may see on a training plan. So firstly, we have intervals. And intervals are speed work in which our pace increases for short periods of time or distance. And the walk-run method is an example of this. So the run-walk is a highly effective way of allowing beginner runners to go further than if they had tried to run straight without stopping. And in some cases, it could even be faster. It makes running longer mentally easier because it breaks it into smaller intervals. And so here you can see an example of a progress in which the time an individual is running increases with each session. So although intervals are great for building speed and it's really good for those that may be short on time, you don't want every workout or every run session you do to be an interval. We also want to look to do some steady state runs, which are slower than race pace and allow you to build up mileage and your aerobic strength. Next, we have tempo runs. They're another common training element you may see, but we want to try not to get them confused with our intervals. So tempo runs are sustained, steady effort runs, and the pace is challenging, but it's manageable. So often people will describe them as comfortably hard. I almost feel like that sounds like an oxymoron. The effort level is around 6 to 8 on a 10-point scale. And it's a pace where conversation is difficult, but it's not impossible. So for example, you may see on a program, read 5K tempo run, which is 25 to 30 seconds per mile slower than your current 5K race pace. So with all this running and the constant pounding on the pavement and the repetitive motions of running, it can be a lot of stress on your body, but we want to keep up with our cardio. And so we can look to supplement that with some lower impact alternatives such as biking, elliptical, swimming that will work and use the same body systems. And these cross-training days, as well as adding in strength training, can reduce the risk of injuries and even increase our running efficiency. So regardless of what your training plan has outlined, you want to also ensure that your sessions include a warm-up, cool-down, and there are also rest days planned in. So instead of just heading out of the door and starting your run, and I will admit that I am guilty of that, you want to look to start with some dynamic movements, such as knees to chest, leg swings, or skips, as these movements will increase your heart rate, warm up muscles for performance, and reduce the risk of injury. We also want to avoid doing any static stretching in the warm-up while our body is cold, and instead we want to save those for part of our cool down. So once you've completed your run, we're going to walk it off. We don't want to just stop. This will allow your body to come back to a pre-run state and prevent any dizziness. And then you can complete stretching on the quads, hamstrings, calves, and glutes, or even incorporate foam rolling into your routine. And then finally, rest days allow you to recover, and typically you want to have 1 to 2 days per week in which you keep activity light, but then also making sure that your nutrition and how you're eating is the same. Okay, finally, some last food for thought. Some days you're just going to be tired, unmotivated, just straight out dislike running, and that planned workout may just seem like an enormous undertaking. And when these days happen, it's essential just do something. Anything, even if it's just a fraction of what's planned, something is better than nothing. Running can be uncomfortable, and to deal with the uncomfortable feeling, it helps to have a personal mantra or mental tactics. For a 5K, think of it as 3 1-mile intervals with a little extra at the end. Mentally focus on 1 mile at a time, and recall how you feel once you've completed a run. Usually the hardest part is actually just starting your run or any workout for that matter. Soreness and pain can sometimes feel the same, so just make sure you're able to tell them apart. This is very key, especially if you are a beginner. Soreness will peak around 36 hours after the exercise and then start to subside. And generally, soreness will decrease or go away with light exercise. So listen to your body. It is okay to sub and cross training days on the bike or the elliptical, like I previously mentioned, and especially if you're feeling run down, like you know your body best. So this concludes today's Take 10 tips, tools, and training. I hope you've been able to take away some valuable tidbits to help you get ready for your next 5K. Thank you so much for joining me today.